Hello there, Cutco Stores team. We have another video coming out to you for training purposes, and this one's going to cover gadgets, garden tools, and the barbecue set. So, several gadgets we have. The gadgets have a handle material that's made out of craton. And this material, when it gets wet or oily, it actually gets tacky and grips your hand better. So if this gets wet, it actually grips your hand. When you're using a peeler under the sink and it gets wet, it grips your hand as opposed to getting slippery. It also gives you a really nice, comfortable, firm grip, and they are dishwasher safe as well. The ice cream scoop, a couple very unique features about the ice cream scoop. One of the things, it has a super thin edge, so it cuts into the ice cream, kind of like an ice skate cuts into the ice as it goes along. The tip is it comes to a point so you can get down into things. You can scrape around the side and bottom of the carton. This is also really good. You can use it for melon balls. You can use it for cleaning out the insides of squash or pumpkin. You can use it for scraping seeds out of big, long cucumbers and things along those lines. But that's the ice cream scoop. The other thing that's really cool about the ice cream scoop is when you set it down, the handle acts as a stand and keeps the bowl from hitting the surface, so you don't end up with that dot of ice cream on your counter where you set the ice cream scoop down. This also, by the way, is guaranteed forever, like all of our Cutco items, so if anything ever happens, they fix or replace it for free. The second gadget we're going to cover is the pizza cutter. The pizza cutter was tested back in the day to cut 12 miles of pizza. So it's not going to dull anytime soon, but it's also not razor sharp like the knives are. This is not something you have to be afraid of. What's nice about this is the blade comes off, so it's super easy to clean. The two worst things about most pizza cutters is they don't cut, so we've solved that problem, and then they're hard to get all the cheese and gunk out of right around the hole there. So this snaps right back on. It has finger guards on it, so when you're using it, your fingers are protected and your thumb is protected. Again, has that same craton handle, and it cuts through pizza like butter. You can also use it for things like quesadillas. You can use it for cutting ham steaks. You can use it for cutting sandwiches in half. I use it for cutting brownies and Rice Krispie treats. You can use it for trimming the crust off of kids' sandwiches. All kinds of different things you can use this pizza cutter for. It's not just for pizza. You can cut all kinds of things. Put a bunch of lettuce and herbs in a bowl, and you can just go back and forth and cut all your herbs and lettuce up. It'll just run around the bottom of the bowl and cut everything right up. So very, very cool tool, not just for pizza. We also have the wine opener, which is the newest of our gadgets. The wine opener, they did a couple very unique things. They usually put a hole in the top of these for opening beer and pop bottles, and that's the biggest reason these quit working. This style of opener quits working over time, because from opening beer and pop bottles, it bends the stem, and then it won't flow very well anymore. So this, we built a beer bottle and a pop bottle opener. This little metal clip right here allows you to use it and open a bottle by hooking it on that and using the side of the tool instead of the functioning part of it. Another cool thing about this is you notice that the arms and the stem are not hanging out below the base. So you can actually set this over next to your wine bottles or glasses. You don't have to worry about putting this in a drawer, and if you do put it in a drawer, it doesn't poke you every single time you go to grab for something. Also, they made the stem on the wine opener more like a screw or a drill bit. So instead of an open pig's tail like a cut penny looks like when you're done, which is what most of these wine openers look like, this actually is like a screw or a drill bit, so it grabs more of the cork. If you ever have an old brittle cork that has ripped in half, this grabs more of that cork, so it makes it nice and easy. The other thing that happens is when the arms get to the top, if you keep spinning, this will actually pull the cork all the way up out of the bottle, up to this little stopper, and then when you put the arms down, you don't have to do that last little wiggle and pull out of the bottle for the cork. So really, really cool. There's also another video on just the wine opener, and I actually open a bottle of wine. You can check that out too. The peeler is our most popular gadget by far. It is amazing. It's obviously right or left-handed. The tip is really good for digging eyes out of potatoes, or again, scraping seeds out of cucumbers and tomatoes if you're doing a salsa and you need to clean out the seeds and the insides. But the peeler is delicate enough to do paper-thin slices of things like carrots. It's also strong enough to do things like squash. So when it comes to the peeler is just absolutely off the charts amazing. And one of the things about most peelers is they're not very sharp. So this solves that problem. It's super duper sharp. You can cut both ways with it. I've used it for shredding cheese into, a block of cheese onto a salad or into a simple dish. You can use it for all kinds of different fruits and vegetables, obviously, but the peeler is absolutely outstanding. We have a soft grip version of the cheese knife, which is the same as the other cheese knife, which I'm sure you know all about, so I'm not going to take time for covering that. We also have the can opener. The can opener is one of our newer gadgets as well. It just came out a couple of years ago. It spins effortlessly, which is really nice. The blade is bigger than most, so small, medium, and even large cans, this works great because they made the cutting blade much bigger. It works like a traditional can opener, so you put it on the top of the can, you spin, and then the routine is the lid sits down in, and then you have to go get a knife or a fork or something to get the lid out of the can that it's in. Well, this they added a little magnet, so I can actually just grab the lid, and the magnet is strong. It'll pick up the pizza cutter. So you can just grab the lid, and it picks the lid up right out of the can, so you don't have to worry about getting something else dirty, and you don't have to get your fingers dirty, which is nice. So the can opener, again, dishwasher safe, 100% guaranteed, and is absolutely fantastic. So those are all the gadgets. We also have a barbecue set. The barbecue set's very unique. It's almost 2 feet long. So it's nice for reaching in the back of the grill and turning things over so you don't have to stand in the heat and in the fire. You don't have to get your hands as close to the fire. The tongs, I really love these tongs. They are controlled by your strength. So a lot of tongs are made in the form of scissors, where you're holding on to the scissors and it clamps it down at the other end. Well, it's hard to hold on to something when your hand is kind of in a scissor position. This, I have a fist and a grip around this, so no matter what I'm trying to pick up and how heavy and big it is, this makes it easy to turn over ribs and to turn over a big roast that might be on there, or to grab and turn over corn on the cob. Anything that's really easy and simple I can do, and anything that's big and heavy makes it easy to pick up with these guys. The teeth are also pretty sharp. So if I'm trying to score into some chicken and see if it's done, you can do that. Again, if I just want to pick something up and it grabs it, it's not going to let it go and slide off because the teeth have a nice grip to them as well. They're long enough also. If your neighbors are cooking something that smells good, you can reach over the fence and grab it off their grill. We also have the long fork. So this has it's like a giant carving fork. So again, you can reach into the back of the grill and turn things over and pick things up. And then you've got the long spatula along with it. Super duper flexible, just like the kitchen spatula is, just a longer version. So again, I can get in the back and turn over hamburgers that are way over there. I can reach several feet away from me if I got a big grill, or if I need to smack somebody across the way if your kids are acting up. So you've got all kinds of fun things you can do with your barbecue set. The big thing is it's super long. It also is not going to rust. So I can leave this hanging outside in the summer and the rain and everything that's going on, and it's not going to hurt it at all. And so that's another nice feature. If it's not going to rust, you can leave it outside. You don't have to baby it in any way, shape, or form. And then lastly, we have the garden tools. The garden tools are pretty awesome. A couple cool things they did. First of all, they made them to last. Most garden tools people replace, in a lot of cases, every season, because by the time they're done planting, all their garden tools are either lost or destroyed. So what we've done is we made them super heavy duty. You can't bend or break any of these things. They're absolutely super, super solid. The 2 colors that we used for these are the 2 least commonly found colors in a garden. So when you set this down, most garden tools are made of brown materials or black materials or green materials because they want it to look like the garden. The problem is you set it down and it looks like the garden and it blends in. This stands out. So you set these down on the ground and it's going to stand out because these colors are not anywhere else to be found. So this is the weeder. It's nice and long and it's super sharp, so just shoving it down into the ground, it's going to grab the weed right at its base, and then you can pull the weed out of the ground. So that's what the weeder is for. Again, it's nice and sturdy, so you're just shoving it into the ground and it's cutting off the weed at the root. The cultivator is this guy here. When they first started making these, they would hang them on beams at the factory and try to do pull-ups to try to test them and try to break and bend them. So these things are, again, super duper duper strong. They have a sharp teeth on them that stay sharp. Not sharp enough to cut you easily if you're just kind of messing around with them, but it's going to cut real easily into the dirt. And again, it's going to stay sharp. It's not going to bend and get all messed up like most of them do because the steel is so soft. Ours, the steel is extremely hard. Again, super comfortable grips, the same Kraton material, so when it gets wet or oily, it actually grips your hand better. But for tearing up the dirt, this thing is just awesome. We then have the trowels, and there's a garden trowel, which is the wider one, and a transplanting trowel, which is the skinny one. The transplanting trowel is for potted plants and for smaller things, so you can get into a potted plant. And then the bigger one is better for the garden, so you can move much more dirt around at any given time. So one's more for potted plants, the bigger one is more for the garden. Obviously, you can use the small one in the garden as well. One of the things that both of them have as far as features is they have a measuring gauge on the blade. So people would want to dig certain depth of holes to plant their bulbs, and then you also want to keep them spaced apart at certain intervals. So if I want everything to be 2 or 3 inches apart, I have my ruler right here. I don't have to have a tape measure, or I don't have to wing it. Everything will be exactly the same, so it'll look wonderful. And then the blade, once again, is going to stay sharp. It's not sharp like a knife, but it's sharp enough to cut into the ground, and it's also hard enough that it's going to keep its sharp edge. So again, it's not going to need to be replaced every season. And then last but not least, we have our pruners. The bypass pruners are spectacular. One of the things that people hate about a lot of pruners is this little lock. As you're using it, it accidentally seizes up on you. So when you're using it and you're just kind of going along, all of a sudden it stops because that lock engaged. Ours doesn't do that. So it's really nice when you're using it, you could use it all day long, and that lock's never going to creep over there and shut these things on you. They're super duper strong and super heavy. You've got a lot of leverage and control, so when you open it, it opens kind of wide, which is what you want with pruners. And then they are just effortless. So you just squeeze through things, and they just cut right through things. One of the things you should all have in your store, by the way, is not just food to cut, but have a branch. They're all over the place outside. They grow in things called trees. So you can just take these outside, snip one off, and just have something to cut in your store all the time for customers, and you're good to go. So these things are phenomenal. Same forever guarantee, again, made in the USA, and these things are just champions for cutting through flowers, cutting through branches, cutting through any of that kind of stuff that you have out in the garden that you need to snip right through. So those are the gadgets, the barbecue tools, and the garden tools, and have fun with the quiz.